Happy Monday, students. This is Dr. Joseph. I want to spend the first instructional video addressing the issue, what is a literary analysis? I have posted online 3 PDF documents. The first one is on the topic of what is a literary analysis. The second one is how to write a literary analysis essay. The third one is a simple literary analysis. And of course, I have posted the actual text on which you will do a literary analysis, which is How to Find a Good Man by Flannery O'Connor. In the first part of this video, okay, this is a two-part series, I will be addressing the important elements of a literary analysis. Then in the second part, I am going to break it down what you need to do, how to write a good, effective, and attractive literary analysis. Let's go with a definition. Analysis in general is a specific type of critical thinking that requires the breakdown of a work of literature, for example, into smaller pieces. So the goal of analysis is to create either a new or better understanding of a work of a literature once the smaller pieces are put back together. So we break literature down into smaller pieces by analyzing elements of literature. And those elements of literature include the following one: speaker slash narrator. That means the narrator of a text is the person who narrates or tells the story. The setting has to do with the location, right? The location in which the text takes place, the location of the text. Plot is the broad timeline, right, of the text. Timeline, and I'm not talking about the timeline in terms of dates, location, but it is the creation, the invention that tells the story. Okay, it's the storyline, characters, and of course, a story, for example, consists of multiple characters. There are different characters, major characters, minor characters. There is actually a protagonist, antagonist. They're all part of the family, what we call characters. And another literary element that's very important for you to know is theme. A theme in a literary work, I should say, is a dominant motif, motif, or a central idea in a text that pervades the narrative, that controls the plot. Okay, a theme could also be understood as a concept that pervades not only the plot, the storyline, but also a concept that is found on the lips, on the actions of the characters involved. Tonality. We're talking about the mood, okay? The sense of psychological state in which the characters find themselves. How do they approach other characters? How do they interact with other characters? For example, does the major character express a happy, joyful mood in the scene? Is it an angry or a sad tone? Symbolism has to do with different elements that are used in the text, sometimes to hide the meaning of an action, of a person, or of a character. For example, in some texts, to talk about the strength, the vigor, or the rigor of a character, uh, the the author could choose a lion or a tiger. A tiger, for example, symbolizes strength, symbolizes courage. This is what we mean by symbolism. Okay. Uh, Literary figures have to do with, again, imagery, metaphor that are used in the text, and most of the time to hide the meaning, the actual meaning of an event, of a person, of a character, or whatever that entails in the story. So now you have to remember there is no correct way to interpret a text. A text could be, excuse me, a text can be analyzed from different perspectives, what we call literary theories. For example, you can analyze a text from a biographical perspective, or you can analyze a text from a gender perspective. You can analyze a text from a psychoanalytical perspective. You can analyze a text from a Marxist perspective, from a feminist perspective. So there are different ways to interpreting a text. Now, for me as your instructor, I'm really interested in your ability to generate an argument. You generate an argument, okay? You articulate that argument and you provide pieces of evidence to justify your argumentation, to justify the claims that you are making, or the claim, the general thesis of your work. Now, what's interesting when you make a claim, you have to, especially in a literary work such as a short story, like A Good Man is Hard to Find. So your primary source is going to be the text itself. The story is your primary text, and you're going to have to find scholarly sources. That means sources outside of the text to support your claim, to support your 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 major idea, or your motive, or your theme. So you will require sources. I will be talking about these sources in a little while. Now, for the assignment, you are writing a 3-page essay. A 3-page essay is about 750 words. So there are 2 outside sources that are required. So I require that you use 2 outside sources. So in addition to the text itself in which you will engage, you will interact with, so you are responsible to find 2 outside sources from St. Jack library databases, okay? For example, sources from websites, from general Google search, okay, will not be accepted. Sources from Wikipedia, okay, those literary websites that students use all the time to gain information, I have no problem that you use other websites for your general knowledge, but those websites shall not be cited in your text, okay? Because I'm talking about scholarly sources. A scholarly source is a source that has been peer reviewed. That means by peer reviewed, we mean by the scholarly community, members of a scholarly community vetted that text to make sure it's accurate, it's well written, and it's relevant. Now, this is the reason I'm strongly encouraging you to find those two sources from St. Jack's library databases. Okay? So I mentioned the literary analysis is a 3-page essay about 750 words. You must also remember, okay, again, to earn credit for your scholarly source, you must, okay, let me give you an example. You must quote, you must paraphrase, you must summarize the scholarly source. In 1301, English 1301, you have learned how to quote, how to paraphrase, how to summarize the scholarly source. I have posted another lengthy and detailed document called All You Need to Know About the Writing Process. If you go online, go on Blackboard, click on content, the content table, then you will see a tab, a heading that is called required materials. Click on the required materials tab to access the PDF file called, I think it's in PDF or Word, All You Need to Know About the Writing Process. Now, this document is very important. It gives you an overview and examples, how to quote, how to paraphrase, how to summarize. You will find this very, very helpful. Now, and then in a literary analysis, you want to use quotes. You want to cite the text, okay? When you cite a text, you need to provide the page number in which that quote or citation is found. So whenever you cite or you introduce an idea or you incorporate a concept that is not yours, okay? That means an idea, a quote, a series of quotes that you did not create, you did not invent. You need to cite that source properly. When you don't, you call this is plagiarism. That's how we call it. Okay, so you're going to use what's called in-text citation. This is what you have been taught, introduced to in 1301 when you use the MLA style. So you use in-text citation wherever you use information that is not common knowledge or is not your original idea or words. So you're going to include an accurate MLA works cited entry for the scholarly source on your works cited page. So I mentioned 3 pages. The 3 pages that I mentioned does not include the MLA works cited page, because the MLA works cited page is a page on its own. It stands on its own. It's a page by itself. The very last page in the essay. So you want to make sure, okay, you go back and review the readings, the videos about the MLA citing style that I have posted, okay, in the second week of the course. Now, another thing that I want to talk about is other sources when you choose what when you choose a literary work. Again, I expect you to quote, to paraphrase, to summarize the literary text you have, the literary text. There's only one text, really, one story. A good man is hard to find. So you're going to quote from it, you're going to paraphrase from it, you're going to summarize from it. Okay? Now, I mentioned earlier that the story, A Good Man is Hard to Find, is not a scholarly source. It's actually your primary source, the text you're going to read, or some of you may have already read it carefully. Now, you also need to remember accurate in-text citations are extremely important because you will be evaluated, you will be judged by how well you cite your text, your excuse me, the ideas from the text. I also bring to your attention, okay, the idea of a rhetorical situation. Last week, I have assigned several pieces of readings on the subject of rhetorical thinking rhetorically. So by rhetorical situation, for example, your audience, okay, could be your classmates. I'm also your audience as your professor. So you are writing to defend a claim. You're writing to defend a claim. You're writing to persuade, to to dig deeper into the text. Now, your tone for the literary analysis, I'm not talking about the tone and the text. This is a different idea. I'm talking about the tone of your work. It would be conversational. So you're writing, okay, conversationally, formality, okay, semi-formal. Now, I want to address the issue of language when you write. Do not use contractions, okay? Expand all contractions to two words. For example, do not use the word don't, okay? Instead, write it out as do not. Do not use second person or first person personal pronouns. You'll be writing and the excuse me, in the third person. Do not use like first person like I, we, our. Do not use slangs, no text abbreviation. Okay? You don't do that because you're writing a research paper. Now, let me talk about the paper itself. The literary essay. So, paper. So, every student is required to write a critical literary research paper based on a theme, motif, or symbol found in A Good Man Is Hard to Find by Flannery O'Connor. I already mentioned that the length of the paper is 3 pages, excluding the works cited entry and the planning sheet, which is also posted online. I will be talking about it in a different video. So you're going to submit a rough draft for feedback. Okay. They look at the course of the activities. There is a due date for the rough draft. The rough draft is required. It's mandatory. It's not optional. Not only you're going to submit it to me for feedback, you're going to submit it to earn a grade. Okay? for credit. Then a final draft is due after you incorporate changes or the recommendations that I made on your paper. I will provide feedback for subsequent revisions and final submissions. Again, for your literal analysis, you will generate a thesis statement. For the literary essay itself, it should include a body paragraph and a conclusion. Let me repeat myself again. Do not list or cite references from Wikipedia, Spark Notes, EndNotes, Cliff Notes, personal blogs, or blogs in general. Okay? I want to end this video by bringing to your attention some major themes or topics or concepts in a good man is hard to find. So, grace, that's one. Goodness, good versus evil, the relationship between good and evil in the text. Religion is another major theme. Salvation, what does it mean to be saved in the Christian sense? Okay? Or what does it mean to be saved in a non-Christian sense? Family, nostalgia. So those are major themes: grace, goodness, good versus evil, religion, salvation, family, nostalgia, that you find in A Good Man Is Hard to Find. In the second video, I will be providing more instructional hints, tips, in order for you to do a good job. Okay? Again, should you have any questions, any concerns, do not hesitate to contact me. You know my email and you know my phone number.